Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Tonight we are learning more about some of the 8 victims of that horrific shooting spree in the Atlanta area on Tuesday. Delayna Ashley Yawn was 33 years old, a wife and mother to 2 children. She and her husband Mario were at Young's Asian Massage on Tuesday for a relaxing spa day, just to get a little time to themselves. When the shooting began, they were in 2 different rooms. Mario was able to lock himself inside one of those rooms and escape uninjured. Family members described Delayna as their rock, who always welcomed people into her home and threw the best birthday and holiday parties. Paul Andre Michaels, age 52, was a veteran from the U.S. Army Infantry. Described by his brother as a hard-working local business owner, he was working as a handyman at the Ackworth Spa, building shelves there on Tuesday afternoon when the shooting took place. Michaels leaves behind his wife of more than 20 years. 49-year-old Xiaojian Tan was the owner of Young's Asian Massage and at least one other spa in the area. She was a licensed massage therapist herself. She emigrated from China many years ago, a friend told USA Today. Tan, who went by Emily, had a daughter who recently graduated from the University of Georgia. The friend described her as, quote, the sweetest person you'd ever meet. In the first 24 hours after the shootings, the humanity of those victims was largely obscured, while the shooters was on full display. Police portrayed him as a struggling sex addict having a, quote, bad day.
He apparently has an issue, what he considers a sex addiction, and sees these locations as something that allows him to go to these places, and it's a temptation for him that he wanted to eliminate. He was pretty much fed up and kind of at the end of his rope, and yesterday was a really bad day for him, and this is what he did.
That officer, Captain Jay Baker with the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office, has faced, as you've probably seen, a lot of criticism for those remarks. Perhaps even more since it was revealed that he posted a photo on Facebook last year showing a racist T-shirt referring to COVID-19 as an imported virus from China. Seems like a reference to the former president. That is what an officer investigating the murder of Asian American women thinks. That's what he chose to post publicly because he thought it was funny. It puts into stark relief this question that we've been facing a lot recently, frankly. Which kinds of perpetrators and suspects are seen as full human subjects? People who you can model the internal states of, someone who got out of control or did something unruly or had a bad day, and which perpetrators and suspects are just savages and animals and thugs and violent criminals. Republican Senator Ron Johnson said it loud and clear after the attack on the Capitol.
I'm also criticized because I've made the comment that on January 6th, I never felt threatened, because I didn't. And mainly because I knew that even though those thousands of people there were marching to the Capitol were trying to pressure people like me to vote the way they wanted me to vote, I knew those are people that love this country, that truly respect law enforcement, would never do anything to break a law. And so I wasn't concerned. Now, had the tables been turned, and Joe, this got me in trouble. Had the tables been turned and President Trump won the election, and those were tens of thousands of Black Lives Matter and Antifa protesters, I might have been a little concerned.
It's all right there, right, in what Ron Johnson said, all of it. It's who you can relate to, who's law-abiding, respectful, who you don't have to be scared of, and who you do. This has been a defining theme, apparent in the wake of January 6th, the inability of so many of those on the right and maybe some of the police officers involved to conceive of the rioters who attacked the Capitol as people who could be violent because of who they were and what they looked like, the failure to prepare for that violence, and the effort of people like Ron Johnson to extend to them the maximum amount of empathy, just like Officer Baker did to the gunman in Atlanta. Keep in mind, January 6th was one of the worst days of injuries for U.S. law enforcement since 9/11. At least 138 officers wounded, and nearly every single day brings more evidence about just how brutal the attack was. Today, the FBI released new footage of 10 suspects. These are people who have not yet been apprehended, who they say committed some of the most violent attacks on officers protecting the Capitol that day. And I want to warn you, the video is disturbing. is just a small portion of what the FBI posted today. That gentleman there, who, is a full human subject with an interior life and all kinds of complicating factors, but who appears in that video to be beating the crap out of police officers with what looks like a bat. The FBI is looking for information about these suspects. You can go to FBI.gov/Capitol Violence to see more footage like this clip showing a rider spraying what appears to be a fire extinguisher down at a crowd of officers. NBC News 4 in Washington also obtained this video today, similar to that previous video from the FBI, where you see the rioters attacking officers with what looks like baseball bats. And all this is on top of what we already know happened on January 6th, when rioters trapped this officer in a door, leaving him crying out in pain. They threw a fire extinguisher at a group of police. They tried to steal officers' weapons, yelling, quote, "kill him with his own gun," stole an officer's badge and then buried it in the backyard after he was beaten. Discharged bear spray in the faces of multiple officers, including one officer who sustained scars under her eyes, and Officer Brian Sicknick, who later died. By the way, the rioters did those things while flying the thin blue line flags. Some of the rioters were even police officers themselves. We know at least 9 members of law enforcement were there and have been charged. And after all this, the House held a vote on a resolution yesterday to award congressional gold medals to the police who protected them on January 6th. That measure passed. But 12 Republicans voted against it. They voted against honoring the officers who saved their lives that day because they objected to certain language in the resolution, like the term insurrectionists. It's obviously not about the words. They just don't want to talk about the violent reality of what happened. Who did it? There's a lot of that going around right now.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.